Emotions are running high as large crowds rallied outside the U.S. Supreme Court today while the justices wrestled with whether Californians' ban on gay marriage should stand. Here with me now, or joining me now from Washington, D.C. is Austin Nimitz. He's an attorney for the Alliance Defending Freedom and a member of the legal team arguing for Proposition 8 to be upheld. A busy day for you, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
So what do you think this case hinges on?
I really think this case hinges on a very simple proposition, and that's whether or not marriage, this age-old institution that has been with society for thousands of years, is all of a sudden unconstitutional under the U.S. Constitution. But that's what our opponents in this case are asking the Supreme Court to conclude. And we know that millions of Americans care about marriage. We've seen votes on marriage across this country. And we just don't simply believe that marriage is now unconstitutional under the U.S. Constitution.
Now, one of the things we know is going on in the Supreme Court is discussions about whether the Supreme Court should even be hearing this case. Can you talk a little bit about that in the simplest terms?
Sure, and it really mirrors the argument that we've been making all along, that the debate that we're having as a country about same-sex marriage belongs in the legislature. It belongs in the hands of the people at the ballot box and through their elected Democratic representatives. What we don't need is the Supreme Court to offer us a 50-state mandate on marriage. That's not really the American way, and that's not going to resolve this debate on marriage we're having. So we feel very strongly that the Supreme Court should leave it back to the states, let the people work through this very interesting debate on marriage through our democratic institutions. That's what we're asking the Supreme Court to do in this case.
And in fact, let's hear a little bit from the Supreme Court today with Charles Cooper arguing a similar point.
That the New York High Court observed is one that is changing and changing rapidly in this country as people throughout the country engage in an earnest debate over whether the age-old definition of marriage should be changed to include same-sex couples. The question before this court is whether the Constitution puts a stop to that ongoing democratic debate and answers this question for all 50 states.
Okay, we're back with Mr. Nimitz. Mr. Nimitz, you mentioned the 50-state solution, as did Charles Cooper. If it becomes a state-by-state solution, doesn't that impose something from a state level on churches? Shouldn't this just be a church matter? Most people get married in churches, synagogues, mosques. Shouldn't those institutions be deciding, not the state in a blanket way?
Well, and I think that's a question that we need to answer through our democratic institutions and process. And we have 50 states in this country for a reason. Not every law is the same in every state. And that's part of the American experiment. That's how we do business in America, if you will. So it's not a unique proposition as it pertains to the institution of marriage. The question as to whether marriage is all of a sudden unconstitutional under the U.S. Constitution is the central question before the Supreme Court. We feel strongly that it is not unconstitutional, and we're hoping the Supreme Court agrees with us and returns this issue where it belongs. That's the hands of the people.
What are the ramifications do you see if this case doesn't go the way you want it to, which is to uphold Proposition 8?
Well, what we do know is inevitable, is that Americans will continue to debate marriage no matter what the decision is. I mean, the Supreme Court can no more settle the question on marriage than it settled the question on abortion in this country. Americans care about this issue deeply. We're going to continue to debate and discuss this issue regardless of what the Supreme Court does. And that's just all the more reason that we need the Supreme Court to leave this question in the hands of the people. Let us work through it through our democratic institutions. That's what we're asking the Supreme Court to do.
Okay, we'll find out in good order. Thank you very much. Austin Nimitz coming to us from Washington, D.C. There. He is co-counsel for California's Marriage Amendment Proposition 8 and attorney for the Alliance on Defending Freedom.